Okay, here's the thing. Zack Morris from Saved by the Bell is not a sociopath. Zack Morris from Saved by the Bell, not a sociopath. Everyone always says he's a sociopath because of those YouTube videos that people used to make about how Zack Morris was a sociopath, where he just got the laugh track and like showed all the hideous things that he did. Zack Morris from Saved by the Bell is not a sociopath. Saved by the Bell came out in the 1990s. The 1990s were a time period where everyone had to learn a lesson. Learning a lesson was a really big, important part of the 1990s, and when that came around, when that was necessary, what you had to do is you had to have someone who had to constantly learn their lesson no matter what. So sure, people hate Caillou from Caillou because all he had to do was learn a lesson, and he never seemed to learn the lesson properly, so he was always finding about something new every week. Yeah, absolutely, that was the thing Caillou did. And Zack Morris every week had to do the selfish thing, like this thing that was selfish no matter what, so that he could learn his lesson by the end of the episode. But Saved by the Bell was the Full House of the teenage superhero atmosphere, okay? Saved by the Bell was what Full House was, okay? The show came out in the 80s and the 90s. It was for the 11-year-olds at first, when it was the Miss Bliss show with the woman who played the original Parent Trap girl. One second. Because the Miss Bliss show had the adult woman as the teacher for this classroom of kids, and we only had Zack Morris and Screech at the time. Oh, and Lisa Turtle. And then they realized that maybe the Miss Bliss show wasn't the exact right thing, so we kept Mr. Belding, we kept Lisa Turtle, we kept Screech, and we kept Zack Morris, because who was the most charming kid in that entire class anyways? Zack Morris. And who was Zack Morris always learning his lesson from? Miss Bliss. But if Miss Bliss wasn't really working out, they decided to do Saved by the Bell. When Saved by the Bell came around, we kept Zack Morris, and he was madly in love with who? Kelly Kapowski. He was the most popular kid in school. He was really cool. Screech adored him in the same way that Boyle from Brooklyn Nine-Nine adores Jake Peralta. And Zack Morris, I would actually argue, is a Jake Peralta type, 100,000%. He is, yeah, actively doing anything that he can. The chocolate is still there. Okay, one second. He is actively doing anything that he can consistently to make sure that he gets his way, that the selfish action can be made, yes. But by the end of every single episode, every single time he is given the choice to do something that would in the end screw his friends over, he does learn the lesson as to why screwing his friends over is wrong. And we, as the audience of children watching Zack Morris do these terrible things over and over again, also got to learn why Zack Morris needed to learn that lesson. Seeing Zack Morris learn that actually selling this faulty jewelry for cheap instead of actually like going for the expensive class rings so that he could make a buck maybe wasn't the best option. And when he was making a buck, he was trying to make a buck for the class, just in a different way. He was always trying to scheme, he was trying to grift, but when the grifting didn't go his way, he was always in the end doing the right thing. I think the best example of that is the caffeine addiction episode. What was Jessie Spano addicted to randomly for no reason? Caffeine. What happened? She became what was basically a cokehead, okay? And while she was a cokehead, while she was addicted to caffeine, she was doing all of the things. She was trying to be valedictorian. She was actively making her way through being in a girl group, doing girl group music with Kelly and Lisa. She was doing all of these things. She was so booked, she was so busy that she was having a mental breakdown. And the only way that she would be able to do all of these things at once so that she could keep up her perfect 4.0 GPA and be the head of a girl group and do all these things and write music and learn choreography and dance and exercise was to take caffeine pills, and she was popping them like Tic Tacs. And it was caffeine. It was ridiculous. It was the most ridiculous thing in the entire world, right? We're making coffee right now, and in the Saved by the Bell reboot, Jessie Spano was like, I don't drink caffeine, I'm 50 years caffeine sober, or something like that, whatever, right? And it's silly, and it's goofy, and they're making fun of themselves, but they weren't gonna do the actual thing that Jessie would have been addicted to, which was, you know, drugs, like actual real drugs. So she was popping caffeine pills, and they were not good for her, they were not helping her, they were harming her. And no one else noticed but Zack goddamn Morris. Zack Morris was the one who was best friends with Jessie Spano. Zack Morris was the one who went up to her bedroom and was like, hey, we've got the thing, we gotta go so we can do the thing. And Jessie does the most, honestly, if people could give Elizabeth Berkley her flowers for one thing, it would be this scene. Because yeah, she gets made fun of for being in that really bad burlesque movie. But, Showgirls, but when she was in this, when she did this scene, it was killer. It stays with me to this day. She's telling Zack about how she's got everything going on, she's got everything under control, everything is fine, nothing's gonna go awry, he just has to trust her, but she's being a cokehead about it. And all the while, she's singing the song that they're singing in the girl group, because it's not an original song. I'm so excited. So she's going, I'm so excited, and then she falls into Zack's arms, scared, and it haunts me. me. It haunts me to this day, okay? And also, on top of it haunting me to this day, it was a really meaningful scene. And you know what Zack Morris did? You know what Zack Morris did that he never gets credit for? He canceled the contracts for this event. He made sure that they got out, even though he was losing money, and he took care of his friend. When the other people in this group could have been absolutely livid with Jessie for putting their careers on the line, he rallied everyone around Jessie to be her friend, to support her, to take care of her, because that's the kind of person that Zack Morris is. Zack Morris is not a sociopath! And it's bothered me for a decade and a half that people have decided to start saying, oh my god, no, but did you see the YouTube videos where Zack Morris is a sociopath? This isn't Ross Geller actually being potentially a serial killer. This isn't Ross Geller being the scariest person you've ever seen in your life. This isn't Phil Dunphy just never learning his lesson, ever. Zack Morris learned every single lesson he had to learn. And did it take a while? Yes. Did Mr. Belding have to hit him over the head a couple of times to get it through his thick skull? Yes. But if you give Zack Morris the choice between the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do, he will inevitably choose the right thing to do. This is the wrong thing to do. He will inevitably choose the right thing to do, and it will take that amount of time where he's actively thinking that the wrong thing to do is the right thing to do until he finally chooses the right thing to do. That was fully purposeful the way I did it, obviously. And it's not because I have been deeply in love with Zack Morris for the entirety of my life, from when he was Zack Morris all the way to now, him being Mark Paul Gosselaar and doing all the things and playing the serial killer and the sociopath and all of that. It's not because of that. Because I was deeply in love with Zack Morris. I was a Zack Morris girl. I used to ship everyone in the show by hair, and height. So it was Zack and Jessie, and it was Kelly and Screech, and it was Lisa and Screech, and it was Kelly and Slater. The Lisa and Slater thing would come around every now and then because the curly hair would change on Slater, and if the curly hair was a little too curly every now and then, it would be Lisa and Slater and Kelly and Screech, because Kelly and Screech were also really short, so it would work. But I would pair them together the same way that I paired my crayons together, because if I was drawing as a little kid, I would give every single one of my crayons a very specific backstory for everything that was happening in their lives. The day that pink broke up with green to get with blue, that was a really tough day for everyone involved. It really was. Anyways, that being said, Zack Morris is not a sociopath. He was a good friend to all of his friends. It would take him a while, but he learned the lesson in the end. He's a Jake Peralta type. He's just a Jake Peralta type in the 1990s, when the only option that you really had to have kids learn lessons is to show the most selfish person they've ever seen in their entire life so that he can learn a lesson off of them. But Zack Morris is also always trying to put things together so that his friends could enjoy things, and people always ignore that fact. Yeah, he's trying to get one over on Mr. Belding. You would try to get one over on Mr. Belding too. Mr. Belding played creepy Santa in that one episode from New Girl when Jess was flying to London. Just saying. Okay, bye!